Your brain is like the CEO of your body, but it relies on 5 department heads to report what's going on in the outside world. Those 5 departments: vision, audition, somatosensory, gustation, and olfaction. Or simply, sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. Each one has a unique job, but together, they help your brain interpret and navigate your surroundings. This is topic 1.6 in Unit 1 of AP Psychology, all about the 5 sensory systems. We'll start with the department that handles light, color, shape, and motion: vision. So, if you're ready, grab your notes, fire up those neurons, let's jump in. For the AP Psych exam, think of the visual pathway as a road trip with key pit stops along the way. Light first enters through the pupil, the black circle in the center of your eye. The iris, the color part of your eye, acts like a muscle and controls how much light gets in by adjusting the size of the pupil. Bright light, the pupil shrinks. Dim lighting, the pupil widens to let more light in. That light then hits the lens, which bends the light to help focus the image, kind of like a built-in camera lens. That bending process, it's called accommodation. Your lens changes shape to focus on objects at different distances. The focused light then lands on the retina, the light-sensitive surface at the back of your eye. And this is where the magic happens: transduction, the process of converting light into electrical signals your brain can understand. Inside your retina, you've got 2 types of photoreceptors: rods and cones. These are the cells that start transduction by detecting light and triggering the signal. Rods help you find your seat in a dark movie theater. They're active in low light and great at picking up shapes, motion, and shadows, but not color. Cones, on the other hand, handle color and detail. They're densely packed in the fovea, the center of your retina. That's what gives you the visual sharpness you need to read a text, admire a sunset, or scroll through some funny memes. But what happens when your cones don't quite do their job? That's where color vision deficiency comes in. Someone who's dichromatic has trouble seeing 2 color ranges, and someone who's monochromatic sees the world in shades of gray, aka color blindness. After rods and cones begin transduction, the signal moves to bipolar cells and then to ganglion cells. The axons of those ganglion cells bundle together to form the optic nerve, the long nerve that carries the signal, in the form of action potentials, from your eye to your brain. Now that we've followed the visual pathway, let's talk about something the human eye is really good at: detecting color. Not just the big ones like red or blue, we're talking subtle differences in hues, like teal versus turquoise. Psychologists use 2 main theories to explain how we perceive color. The trichromatic theory says we have 3 types of cones in your retina, each sensitive to a different wavelength of light. Red cones, long wavelengths; green cones, medium wavelengths; and blue cones, short wavelengths. When you see color, your brain is basically mixing signals from these 3 cone types. Now, the trichromatic theory explains how we start to see color, using 3 types of cones for red, green, and blue. But that's not the full story. To fill in the gaps, psychologists use the opponent process theory. This theory says your visual system processes colors in opposing pairs: red versus green, blue versus yellow, black versus white. But what happens when parts of the visual system don't just get tired, they get damaged? Damage to the visual system can lead to some rare and unusual disorders. Prosopagnosia, aka face blindness: you can see a face, but you can't recognize who it is. And blind sight, when someone with damage to the visual cortex can respond to visual stimuli without being consciously aware of seeing it. So far we've examined vision, including light waves, cones, rods, and why seeing is really just light waves doing parkour off objects and into your eyeballs. Now we're moving from what you see to what you hear, also called audition. Because while your eyes are busy decoding light, your ears are dealing with something else: vibrations in the air. Sound waves are vibrations of molecules that travel through the air. These vibrations vary in 2 important ways. Wavelength, which is the distance between each wave, this determines pitch. Amplitude, which is the height of the wave, this determines the loudness of the sound. Bigger wave equals louder sound. These vibrations travel into your ear and through the power of transduction somehow get turned into Beyonce's lyrics and car horns. But your ears don't just pick up sounds, they also help you figure out where those sounds are coming from. This is called sound localization. For the AP exam, there are 3 theories of pitch you need to be familiar with: place theory, frequency theory and volley theory. Place theory says that different pitches activate different locations along the basilar membrane inside the cochlea. High-pitched sounds, they hit near the beginning of the membrane, and low-pitched sounds, they travel further and hit the end. Frequency theory says that your brain figures out sound by how fast your auditory nerves fires. Basically, the faster the sound wave moves, the faster your nerves send signals to the brain. Lastly, we have volley theory. This theory says that groups of neurons take turns firing. Think of it like your neurons playing a game of volleyball. One fires, then it passes it off to the next and the next, keeping the rhythm going so your brain can hear the full beat. Unfortunately, hearing isn't always pitch perfect. Hearing loss can result from aging, injury, or damage to parts of the auditory system. There are two major types of hearing loss. Conduction hearing loss happens when sound waves can't make it to the cochlea because the delivery system is broken. There may be something wrong with the mechanical parts of the ear, like the eardrum or the bones in the middle ear. Sensory neural deafness is caused by damage to the cochlea's hair cells or the auditory nerve itself, and is the type most commonly caused by aging, long-term exposure to loud noises like rock concerts and airplane engines, or genetics. Alright, let's give your ears a break and move on to two different senses that are often underrated but totally essential: smell and taste. Together, they make up your brain's flavor department. And without them, everything would just taste like sand and unsalted cardboard. Ugh. Smell, or olfaction, plays a bigger role than just helping you figure out if it's time to shower. It helps you detect danger, like smoke or spoiled food, triggers powerful memories, and even plays a sneaky role in attraction. That's where pheromones come in. These are chemical messages that your olfactory system picks up, often without you consciously aware of it. They can suddenly affect your mood, behavior, and yes, attraction. The olfactory system starts when airborne molecules, tiny bits of whatever you're sniffing, enter your nose and bind to olfactory receptor cells at the top of your nasal cavity. That's where transduction happens. Those chemical signals are converted into action potentials your brain can understand. These signals travel to the olfactory bulb, which acts like a relay station, sending the message directly to the brain. Alright, AP Psych fun fact. Unlike the other senses, smell is the only one that skips the thalamus and heads straight to the limbic system. Alright, next up, taste. Or, if we're being official about it, gustation. Your tongue is covered in taste buds, and each one contains taste receptor cells that respond to different chemicals in food. And yes, that's where transduction happens. Those chemical signals are converted into action potentials, and your brain can understand flavor. There are 5 basic taste categories you need to know for the AP exam: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami, the savory, meaty flavor found in things like soy sauce, cheese, or that one food you can't describe but crave anyway. And a bonus taste. Some scientists also recognize oleogustus, a fancy word for tasting fat, because apparently we needed a scientific reason to love butter. And finally, let's talk about the sense of touch. Transduction for touch happens right under your skin, using specialized receptors that respond to pressure, temperature, vibration, and pain. But touch isn't just about skin-deep sensations, it also includes how your body senses movement, position, and balance. Now let's head deeper, all the way into your inner ear, to explore your vestibular sense. This system helps your body keep track of where you are in space, so you can stay upright, steady, and not fall over like a poorly balanced Jenga tower. Inside your ear are semicircular canals filled with fluid. When your head moves, the fluid shifts, and the movement is detected by hair cells. Those signals help your brain know whether you're upright, downright, or mid-cartwheel. It's how you walk in a straight line, spin around without falling over, or at least most of the time, and feel motion on a roller coaster, even when your eyes are closed. Your kinesthetic sense helps you know where your body parts are without looking. This sense relies on receptors in your muscles, joints, and tendons to track movement and position. Alright, let's lock in with a quick recap. Your brain might be the CEO, but it relies on 5 major senses to collect raw data from the outside world. Vision helps you detect light, color, shape, and motion. Audition, or hearing, picks up vibrations in the air. Those sound waves become meaningful messages. Taste, or gustation, and smell, olfaction, work as a team to create flavor, using chemical receptors to send signals to the brain. Touch, somatosensation, includes pressure, temperature, and pain, with signals processed in the somatosensory cortex in your parietal lobe. And don't forget the vestibular sense, balance and movement, and kinesthetic sense, body position. All right, thanks for watching AB Psych Brainiacs. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss that next video. And as always, when in doubt, trust the data, not your gut. See you next time.